So please note, as this is a public meeting, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Beaverton's website. Minutes are still being taken as well. Please make sure you are muted unless you are the active speaker. Attendees are automatically muted. For any quick comments, you can hold your spacebar to unmute and release the spacebar to become muted again. Please be aware of items in your video background, which could be offensive or distracting to others. You can select the virtual background in the drop-down list next to the video icon. For our attendees, you can type your questions in the question and answer chat. All questions will be addressed during the public comment time on the schedule. If you would prefer to ask your question directly, we will make sure to come around to you. Just click the raise hand button. For attendees who are joining by phone, you can raise your hand by typing *9. If we have multiple people wanting to speak, the order will be placed in the chat. You are welcome to have open discussion in the chat function at the bottom of your screen, but please be aware the chat becomes public record. I will be monitoring the chat, so feel free to let me know if you have any technical difficulties, and I will troubleshoot with you.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to start this evening's bicycle advisory committee meeting. Sorry, I woke up at 5 a.m. for my first meeting this morning. I'm exhausted. With a review of our agenda. I believe we might now have quorum. I thought I saw Michael come on, so we can begin with an approval of our February minutes and review. We'll have our public comment period. We will have officer elections. We think we have a recorder lined up. We will get a Councilor Liaison update. We'll discuss planning for this year's Bike Beaverton event in May. We'll receive an update about the Cooper Mountain Community Plan. And we'll have a discussion about Beaverton Bike Map and our bike tool stations. We'll then wrap it up with our usual city updates and member comments and announcements, and then we will adjourn. Can we please confirm that we now have quorum?
I do believe I saw Michael Dunleavy show up. I think he's here. Yeah, so we have 5.
Fantastic. In that case, Jean, if you could please bring up our minutes from February, we can review those and we can vote to approve.
I'm going to keep scrolling. There was a lot of chat last time, apparently.
Yeah.
We're all very active, that Climate Action Task Force meeting. It was well used during that time. And thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Amanda, for doing such a great job.
I have a question real quick, Jean. These minutes are really comprehensive and not like any other minutes I've seen before. So especially being like so capturing as far as like the conversation goes. So that could be a little bit heavy for somebody who is doing the minutes. Have you historically done minutes like this or?
Go ahead, Amanda.
I was filling in. We don't have a recorder, and typically these are the minutes I would keep in my position in my professional and academic group. So that's just my style. Now that I'm chair, we're getting a new recorder, and that style will shift.
Okay, awesome. It's such a heavy lift to be a recorder, and so I didn't want someone to think it had to be like this. So
if I could just chime in, there are some really good materials on how boards should operate and advisory committees should operate from a board source. And one of the things I recently read was about minute taking. So whoever is going to be the minute taker, maybe they could go to board source and check out that guide. I agree with the comments, by the way. These minutes are more conversational, and minutes really should be about decisions and actions, not capturing, the fine bits of the conversation. Over.
Okay, so Amanda, I think you're looking for a motion.
Do we have a motion to vote on if we want to approve the February minutes?
I will make a motion that we approve the February minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm looking at the attendees list. It looks like Xuan is here and he will need to be moved to panelist so he can vote.
Here we go.
All right, very good. We have everyone here now. For those who wish to approve our minutes with a yes, please raise your hand or use an icon on your video screen, or both. Nathaniel, did you get that?
Got it.
All right. Do we have anyone who wishes to vote no, not to approve? Do we have any abstentions?
Be Michael.
Yep, that's what I see.
Since I wasn't there, I wasn't gonna approve.
All right. With that, our minutes pass approval. And we are still on time, 6:40, and we have time for public comment period. If we have any members of the public who are visiting and have anything they'd like to say, please let us know or put it in the chat so we know you'd like to talk.
Yeah, I see we have one person in the attendees, so I think it's Sean. If you want to speak, raise your hand or post a message to us in the chat. You're welcome to just sit and listen. Thanks for being here. I think we're good.
All right. So our first order of business today after that is officer election continuation. Nathaniel has volunteered to be our recorder going forward. So would anyone like to motion to vote on Nathaniel being our recorder?
I think technically we need a nomination from the floor.
A nomination.
I will nominate Nathaniel to be our esteemed recorder.
Great.
I second.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, now you can do a vote, Amanda.
All right, very good. If you would like to vote yes for Nathaniel being our recorder, please raise your hand or use the raise hand icon. A little awkward, but Nathaniel, are you finished recording your own votes?
Yep.
All right. Do we have any who wish to vote no? And any abstentions?
John Vogler, did you vote? Because we're only seeing your name. We're not seeing you. Your camera's off.
Yeah, I didn't see any icons.
I did vote. I
Oh,
voted
okay.
yes.
Okay, we just weren't seeing you.
All right, very good. It looks like the vote passes. Nathaniel, thank you so much for offering to take on this role for us this year.
Oh, welcome.
All right, our next item is an update from Councilor Mitchell.
Hi, I don't really have an update. What I was hoping to do tonight was get a quick info gathering, kind of make this an info gathering session. I don't, I feel like when you're on your bicycle, safety and vulnerability like are so apparent. And I was just curious to see, and you're welcome to email me if you're not comfortable talking in the meeting. Jean, if you could give them my email address if anybody wants it. I'm sure that everybody has it, but do you feel like Beaverton, our city council, do you feel like we are handling safety in a way that leaves you feeling safe? So I won't, go past the 5 minutes on my little countdown here, but does anyone want to kind of speak up about that? Because I feel like I've heard a lot in the community. I know I've experienced a few things, but when you're out and about and you don't have the safety of a car and maybe it's dark, maybe, all these different things, I was just curious to see if anyone had anything they'd like to share. Okay, I can't really see everybody, so let me try and see if I could change that up. Okay, so if there's nothing, then that's fine.
Actually, Councilor Mitchell, I would say my general observation is observance of traffic laws and things of that nature has decreased during the pandemic. Definitely both on my bike, but also when driving, is waiting a couple of seconds before proceeding when a light changes, because the amount of red light running is occurring is increasing exponentially. Generally, people turning in front of you, if you're in the bike lane or using the bike lane as a right turn lane, generally I've seen kind of an increase in just awareness of laws or following rules of the road is been an issue.
Okay. John?
Thank you for asking. Just following on Mike's comment, I've observed a real increase in speeding around Beaverton and also running of stop signs. Maybe it's just me, but it just seems like people are racing around a lot more than they used to, and they're a lot more impatient.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a comment about the right turn into the bike lane, and that is a requirement in California. In California, if you take a California driving, if you turn right, the vehicle needs to go directly into the bike lane. I think there are many people moving from California to Oregon. And that's and they need to understand that the two states have different laws.
Okay, thank you for that. So if I'm understanding correctly, and I think that I observed the bike lane lawfully in the sense that if you're going to turn right and there's a bike lane there, you do not put your car in the bike lane. You leave that free. Is that what you were saying? Okay.
That is in Oregon, but not in California. California is the otherwise.
Yeah, that would be a good, article to have in the Your City, just to kind of update people like, hey, that would be a good one.
And also yielding to the bicyclist in the bike lane. If you're in the right turn lane, you need to yield to the traffic that's in the bike lane.
Yeah, I was going to add, I got right hooked in January. Very minor. I was fine. But, I was in the bike lane. I had high vis. I had lights. I was following everything. Person didn't signal, didn't look. And, could have been much worse. I was fine. But it's a definite concern for cyclists.
Okay. And aside from the traffic safety situations, how about like yourself? Do you feel when you're out and about in Beaverton that, we handle the community in a way that that we, you're not going to be just attacked in plain sight for no reason, or, things like that? Are there any areas in Beaverton that you feel they need to be addressed?
Yeah, if I could address that, I rode my bike to the library the other day, and I had to step over somebody that was sleeping in the entryway to the door. And it's just, there's some bad characters there, including two guys having a full shouting match in the auxiliary parking lot there where the police auxiliary station is. So I think we've got a lot more bad characters that are hanging around Beaverton, and I don't feel totally safe, even in the main part of town. But if you get on Fano Creek Trail now, you're starting to see homeless people and vagrants out there too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I've used my 5 minutes. I really appreciate everybody's feedback. And if you think of things, while you're sitting in the meeting or after the meeting, please email me. I mean, this is a really big deal for the council right now. And I feel like I personally want us to act on it. I do not know that the other counselors necessarily feel that way. I can't represent what it is that they're thinking, but I really appreciate our safety and making sure that, especially when you're out in the community, that you feel safe as well.
We are ahead of schedule and we do have an additional 6 minutes available if there are any other member comments that weren't captured. Yes, Michael.
I like to say that I feel that the new location of the police station is better centralized, and I notice police cars more often now. Like where the old police station was, I go that way as kind of a back entrance into the Beaverton Town Square all the time, so I would drive by there. But I do feel like the new location, I just feel safer because of the increased presence of police cars going to a more centralized and more dispersive location, I guess. It seemed like I only would ever see police on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway or on, I can't think of the name of that road, but I see more cop cars out and about now.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I think the visibility is huge. And I think that it's been done in a really, during a time where it could be threatening, but our officers have found a way to do it in a non-threatening way. And I really appreciate that. And, two other little quick questions that I have are about a homeless shelter. Just wondering if you think that Beaverton would be ready for something like that. Do we have the right tools in place to manage something like that? And if there were a shelter to be placed somewhere, would you want to know? Because right now there's a lot of discussion about, do we let our public know? Because there's some people who say, no, we shouldn't. We should put shelters everywhere and we shouldn't tell people about them. And I know that there are cases in which we need to tell people and which we need to protect people, like victims of domestic violence. That's a different situation. But, when we have a low barrier shelter, would you want to know where they're, first of all, to be resourceful, but also secondly, if the council said, we can put them throughout the city, it could possibly go next door to you. What would that look like? What would you want to do for your neighbors to support a situation like that? And how would it leave you feeling as a resident if one day there was just something there and nobody asked, for your feedback in that? So, I mean, these are the things that I'm really wondering about because, when I talk to my neighbors, I get a certain type of feedback. When I talk to people at the store, I get a certain type of feedback, but I feel like, here we are, this is a great platform. Candid feedback would be awesome. And it looks like we've got 4 minutes or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I would say, obviously we're in a housing crisis, both regionally and nationally. And I think any tools we can throw at this would help a lot. We definitely want people sheltered rather than on the streets. And I know that, adding permanent housing is the long-term fix, but obviously takes a lot of time and effort. So anything we can do in the intermediary to, address this issue, I think we should be looking at any and all options.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your feedback today. I know it's kind of
To address the question of whether or not you'd want to know, I personally would want to know the location of them. I understand the rationale of keeping it a secret, but my personal preference would be to then avoid it when with my son. Like I wouldn't be afraid of it on my own, but to keep my son away from it. I guess I'd also want to know more about what the shelter entails. I know sometimes there's like a safe needle injection or like needle exchange to go with it. So like the full details about that, I think would want to be included.
very good. Yeah, thank you. I personally think it's very important to include the community in decisions like this because you know, there's no better way to be supportive than being informed and then, you know, asking for education such as, hey, what's going on here? You know, and I think that talking and transparency is what we're here for. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You know, counselors are here. We work for you. We are here to serve. And I don't want that ever to be forgotten, you know, when you're thinking about what it is that we do. And so I welcome you to always be freely speaking about what it is that you want, because it's very important.
All right, we are at time. Thank you so much for initiating this discussion and giving us your time tonight, Councilor Mitchell. All right, and I see that we do have a late member comment. I agree with the comment in there. When we get to the end of tonight's agenda, if we are doing well on time, we can come back to that. So with that, 6:55, we are now going to talk about our planning for Bike Beaverton in a few months. Natali, if you're ready to go.
I am ready. I just have to get something on the screen. So if you just give me a second.
Great.
Let's see. All right. Do we see Bike Beaverton on the screen? Perfect. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Natali Pardo. I am part of the events team and your liaison for Bike Beaverton here. So I am helping this committee with the planning of this event come May 22nd. I am actually new to the city. I've only been here about 2 months. So I'm still getting used to everything. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, government and particularly events in the government and in the city. So I'm super excited. I do have 5 years of event planning experience outside of this. So event planning isn't super foreign to me. But I am excited to bring back events. You know, I think this is something that our community has been missing for the last 2 years. I know I personally grew up in Beaverton, so I've been missing all of these things and, you know, gathering as a community to celebrate all the different things that we do. So Bike Beaverton is officially on our calendar for May 22nd, Sunday, and it'll be hosted from 1 to 3. This is a different time in the year than it has been in the past, so I will say that. Typically, it has been hosted in September, but previous years there was comment of why don't we kick off the summer with this type of event? So we pushed it up. So with that being said, here we go. So again, City Park is where we will be hosting this event, 1 to 3, 1 o'clock, kicking off our community booths and bike rodeo, 2 p.m. our bike ride, with the event again ending at 3 o'clock. One of the biggest things that we want to do is just try to keep the event as similar with what we did in 2019. I think, you know, with this whole transition, you know, for the last 2 years of not hosting anything, we really want to try and keep things as relatively comfortable with everyone, both on the planning side and on the community side, just because there had been a few changes in years past. And so really some of the things that we want to focus on changing this year is more booths. So having more community involvement in that community booth fair time. Helmet donations. So unfortunately, we did lose the Northwest Safety Council, I believe, in the last year or two. So helmet donations will now be coming in from other various organizations, and I'll touch on that a little bit on our next slide. There was a request for professional photography. I know I've seen a couple photos, but they've definitely been photos that have just been taken by either participants or by someone, you know, just attending the event on the city side. And so I'm excited to share, we will have professional photographer there to take some great photos that we can use for our marketing in years to come. Since it is May, again in September, weather was always somewhat warm, right? And so we had popsicles at the end of the ride. This time we're looking for something because we don't know if it's going to be warm or it's going to be hot. You know, May is always a toss up. So we're looking for a different type of treat. And as well, one of the comments that I read over all of our planning documents was making sure that you as a BAC member have duties that can make you more connected with the community and our participants at the event. I do want to touch on, for those that maybe aren't too familiar with Bike Beaverton, in 2019, there was over 400 different participants, whether they participated in the bike rodeo or in the fair or participated on the ride as well. So it is a larger event that will be hosted. And here on the left, you can see I included a map of what the routes were back then. It has been brought to our attention that there is construction going on. I believe it's on Erickson. We're aware of that. We're trying to figure out where that is at this point in time. And so if there are any changes that need to be made, we will definitely be reaching out to all of you for any suggestions, and really working with our public works department and safety team to make sure that we can find a route that works for everyone. That is Bike Beaverton. I forgot to open up my chat, so I'm going to open that up in case I have anybody reach out. Okay. Let's see. Next slide. We have here event duties for day of. So again, I'm just digging into all of these historical documents because this is a new event for me. But duties that were held in the past, not by BAC members necessarily, but just the duties we had in general. We did have our registration. So we had folks who were greeting, welcoming participants to the event and kind of giving them a little bit of directional. Aside from that, forms. So with these types of events, we do have a waiver that we have them sign. Again, just making sure that they are aware of the liability that comes with a bike ride, because they're going to be bike riding around the city. Aside from that, we had an event MC. We actually had someone from the BAC committee who was our MC. So if you are interested in being that person with the microphone and getting everything started and everything, pumped up for the day, we are looking for someone. So feel free to let us know. And so really, again, just welcome the group, start the ride, manage groups as they are dismissed in waves. We'll also have ride marshals. And so as the ride marshal, really your job is just to set a good example for others. You'll ride with event participants on one of the 3 routes, just encouraging participants to stay in a single file line and observing all of the traffic signs and signals as they ride through the city. And then corner marshals. So as a corner marshal, really it was just being assigned a location on the route to cheer folks on, but also help guide lost folks on the route. And if necessary, never good, but necessary, call 911 if there is an emergency as well. So these were all duties that were hosted in the past. We are asking for support, not only from BAC members. We open up the call for volunteers. And so the more volunteers we have, the more we can kind of place them everywhere. If we can have as many people greeting, that's always awesome, right? To kind of create that community. We'll also be asking CERT, so our management, emergency management volunteers, to see if they have any interest in being corner marshals, because again, from notes in previous years, we really do want to keep you all members of the BAC out in the event itself and connecting with the community. Aside from that, other things that I do have as a request, we'll be working on the volunteer form and getting that out to folks. But if you have anybody in your network that is interested in volunteering, I mean, definitely sharing that out. Of course, sharing out the word that Bike Beaverton is coming back, because that's very exciting that it is back. But again, the timing is different than it has in years past. And so making sure you let your network know of when it will be hosted and inviting them to our ride. Let's see. One other thing I do want to mention really quickly is that we will be kicking off our marketing promotion for Bike Beaverton. What is it, April 22nd. And so that's when our press releases are going to go out. All of the social media posting will be going out as well. Your city will have a whole marketing plan. I'll touch on it a little bit more later in our final slide. But before I do get to that, I do want to talk about our booths that have been confirmed so far. There has been some action in the background when it comes to the planning. For confirmed booths, you can see here we have Washco Bikes, Safe Routes to School with the Beaverton School District, PDX Ambukes, Back to Rock, Fourth, River City Bicycles, and the Legacy Health Trauma Nurses Talk Tough, TNNT for short. They will be joining us on May 22nd. I do have 7 other booths that are right now pending. So it's either they are kind of waiting to see if they're bringing back community events or seeing if they have someone on their staff that can come back for this event. Just to list them out so you're aware of who they are. We do have the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. There has been an email sent out to Nike for a donation on swag because I believe they were on there for years past, so why not? We have the Tualatin Hills Parks and Rec that we're hoping to invite back. TriMet, for other kind of bicycle businesses, we have Universal Cycles, Trek Bikes, Rock Creek Cyclery. So we're waiting on hearing from them, but they are ones that I have personally reached out to see if they're interested and willing to participate. To talk a little bit more about all of these businesses and organizations. So some of them, again, they're going to all be present at the event, but many of them will be donating, aside from their time, they'll be donating items to us. So I do want to recognize we'll be receiving helmets from trauma nurses, from the Legacy Health Trauma Nurses Talk Tough program. We'll also be receiving some helmets from Washco Bikes. I believe River City Bicycles might do helmets, might do items. It's still a little up in the air, but they have secured providing us with items. We'll also be getting helmets from the Safe Routes to School. Fourth will be there promoting their micromobility program and have their demo at the event. And then PDX Ambukes will be there with their adaptive trikes as well, promoting different ways that we can ride around the city. And then we'll have Back to Rock. They actually were our DJ in music back in years past, so they have agreed to join us once again this year. And come on, there we go. So back to marketing. So you might have seen this on my first slide. This is going to be kind of the marketing that we stick for this year as well. These bright colors and these images, really the tagline of connecting community, I think is more important than anything right now. Now this event comes back, we want to make sure to connect our bike community together. So April 22nd will be the launch of that campaign. With that, I shared a whole lot of information, but I am here to receive, information, any ideas for potential sponsors and booths that maybe I'm missing that I haven't reached out to. Definitely, again, with the duties, like I mentioned, those aren't duties that, y'all will be doing. Obviously, the more volunteers that we recruit, the more we can have for those types of responsibilities. But I would love to hear how else y'all would like to be involved with the event. And John, I see your hand up, so I can pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Natalie, for that. It sounds like a great event. A couple of years ago, TriMet had a really neat portable unit that was essentially the bike rack that comes down off the front of the bus. And they actually have brought it to different events in the past. I don't know if they're still doing that, but I think that would help people see what's there and maybe even use it to practice putting their bike on the front of the bus. So if they're coming, maybe you could ask them to bring their little demo unit.
Yeah, I do have my email out to TriMet waiting to hear back from them, but I did see in the notes that that would be an awesome addition, because I think that's something that, you know, people are a little unfamiliar with. It's how to do it. And, you know, it's a little intimidating. So having that as a demo would be really great. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Have you connected with Jean about some of the ideas we've had around maybe getting electric bicycles there, or education work we've been doing with other Beaverton groups that might want to be there and have a presence, like the Climate Action Task Force?
Yeah, so there is some notes to this. I'm writing down the Climate Action Task Force. But Fourth is an awesome organization that the city of Beaverton actually has a relationship with and a contract with their micro mobility program. They will touch on e-bikes, but they'll also touch on scooters and other things like that as well. We're kind of still fleshing out what exactly they will be presenting on when it comes to their booth, but it will definitely be circling around the micro mobility programs.
If we end up being short on time moving forward, I recommend that folks on the BAC feel free to send emails. Make sure to keep Jean at least looped in on everything, because she keeps us all together. Just a way to make sure none of our ideas or suggestions get lost in the cracks. But we still have 4 minutes if we have any more ideas or things that people would like to communicate.
Natalie, have you reached out to the West Side Transportation Alliance yet?
I have not. Let me write that down. West Side Transportation Alliance.
I think that might be one that, Jean, would you agree would be a good one?
Yeah, we can reach out. And Natalie, I know those folks, so I can connect you with them. Yeah.
Awesome. Amy.
Yeah, I have a question about marketing and just how we're going to be reaching families and smaller children. Are you going to be reaching out to Beaverton School District, or like working with them to use promotional materials in schools at all, or is it social media based? Could you speak more on that?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of everything. Really, when it comes down to, I guess, traditional marketing, right? When it comes to print items, my request has been to, when we print out postcard kind of size advertisements, to print out enough so we can hand out to our community booths who are confirmed, and making sure that they can reach out to their audiences. One of our confirmed booths is the Safe Routes to the Safe Routes program at the Beaverton School District. So that will be one avenue of us reaching kind of that younger audience. Social media will be one, but aside from that, when it comes to just events in general, with Bike Beaverton being one of those included, we'll also be sharing those types of events out on kind of, what do you call them, events calendars on different community sites. So for example, like PDX Parents has an events calendar. And so making sure that we kind of put it in front of the eyes of those audiences where, you know, we can reach those younger demographics.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mispronounce your name. How do you pronounce it? I saw a hand.
Tron.
Tron. Tron?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Do we have a plan B if it's turned out to be a thunderstorm or a hail on that day?
Yeah, so right now we were kind of seeking the opportunity of doing a plan B when it came to rain. I think right now, if rain is our factor, we will move on rain or shine, right? I think if it comes to the extremes of a thunderstorm or things where they fully needs to just cancel, we will be looking into maybe another available date, but as of right now, that's not part of the discussion, but definitely something that will be added to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do want to add, you'll be seeing me for the next few BAC meetings. So again, as is mentioned, if you do have any suggestions that come up or ideas or anything, you know, that's on your mind related to Bike Beaverton and you want to send my way, feel free. But if not, I will see you next BAC meeting as well and provide more updates of the event as we get closer.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming here, giving us an update and giving us some visuals to help us start getting excited about Bike Beaverton.
Yeah, of course. No worries. Thank you for inviting me.
So next we have an update about the Cooper Mountain Community Plan. Cassera, are you ready to present?
I am ready.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. Okay. So it has been, I think, about a year since I last came to the Bicycle Advisory Committee for an update on this project. So I wanted to first just share where we're at, also who I am. I'm Cassera Phipps. I'm a planner with the city, and I'm the project manager for the community planning effort. And we also have some discussion questions where we'd really like to tap into you know, the advice and experience of this group as we think about how to plan for a new transportation system and particularly new bicycle network in this area. So just to kind of for context where we're talking about, this slide shows existing city limits. So the yellow is City of Beaverton, and then the area shown in the orange is the Cooper Mountain area. Just to the south is what we call South Cooper Mountain. So that abuts Shoals Ferry Road and 175th. For those of you who are familiar with Mountainside High School, it's shown in green on this map. So this project is in its final year. Ultimately, it will produce a policy document and zoning maps and determine how we plan for growth in this area. So we're looking at not only roads and trails, but also where will new parks be, how many homes and what types of homes will be planned for, as well as commercial uses, and then all of the infrastructure and utilities that are needed to support new development. We have a minimum of at least 3,760 homes. That number actually came from a previous planning effort that the city led in 2015, where we did what was called a concept plan. So kind of high level planning effort for this area. All right, so wanted to kind of share just where we're at in the project. We spent the first year doing a lot of research, best practices, inventories of natural resources, just to learn about the area. Then we identified some opportunities. We've spoken with stakeholders, property owners, and community members about, you know, how do we actually create new, welcoming, inclusive neighborhoods. And so now we've kind of distilled all of those ideas into 3 different alternatives. So they show different ways that Cooper Mountain could grow in the future. And they also show a lot of trade-offs, and we'll talk about some of those as we go through the presentation. So we are right now gearing up to do another kind of big engagement push to ask the community for input on these 3 alternatives. Not necessarily, you know, do you like A, B, C best, but what pieces of it do you like, maybe from an environmental perspective or from a, you know, as a cyclist, you know, what appeals to you the most? we're going to try to take those best ideas from all three and put that into a hybrid. And maybe there'll be some new ideas that emerge here through our engagement. And that will really provide kind of the basis for the actual planning document and what we move forward with. So what are the alternatives? Not the best names. We have A, B, C. Alternative A has that minimum number of homes, so 3,760. It would likely produce the least overall housing variety. And the reason we say that is we did a market study that found that, if we kind of let the market decide what gets built in this area, that it would be predominantly detached single homes along with townhouses. And then there's still a market for apartments or multifamily as well. There are new state housing rules that require us to allow, if anyone's heard the missing middle housing types, so the duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, cottage clusters, we need to allow them everywhere. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will be built without some policies or requirements in place. So this assumes that we allow them, but we don't require those other housing types. There is one commercial area under this alternative. I'll see if I can get my laser pointer here. So up here with the letter C shown in red is a commercial area. And then we have fairly moderate, natural resource protection, very consistent with what the city requires today. There are 4 collector roads in this alternative. We have Route 1, which is a north-south, kind of a parallel route to 175th Avenue. And I should say the lines that are shown in black on this map are existing arterial roads. So these gray roads would be new. We have Route 2, which is another kind of north-south parallel route to 175th. We have an east-west connection, Route 3, and then we have a 4th road that connects over to Grabhorn Road here. So 4 new collectors, and then there would be various, local streets that would be developed as properties, come in and they build new housing. The developers and property owners provide those. So there's a bit more flexibility. And then there are roughly, 1 neighborhood park per neighborhood area. However, this results in the lowest overall park acreage. Alternative B, we jump up to 5,000 new homes. Slightly more variety in housing types. So we may start to see some of those plexes and cottage clusters, in part because the city would have a target for housing mix within neighborhoods through our development code. There's still the commercial area up at 175th and Weir. And then we add a second commercial area, kind of internal to Cooper Mountain and South Cooper Mountain off of this new collector route. You'll also see there's a new color. We have purple on the map. This is mixed use, so it would really be flexible zoning to allow for either commercial or residential, or if you wanted to build those, kind of integrate them in the same building, so it's vertically mixed use, you could do that as well. And then we have the more orange, which is the multifamily on this map. In part, that's how we get up to that 5,000 homes, is by having more concentration of the apartment use. Slightly higher park acreage in comparison to alternative A. And then we also assume that there's a higher level of natural resource protection under alternative B. And then for roads, I'm actually going to kind of flip back and forth here. If you look at where Route 1 is on this map, I'm going to go back to alternative A. So instead of going down and connecting, we actually end up with kind of 2 T intersections here That was done in part because we may end up needing to locate a water reservoir somewhere in this vicinity. So we were kind of thinking ahead to how we might be able to plan around that particular site. And then another thing I wanted to point out on this map is that Route 2 does not extend all the way up to Weir Road. We still have a trail, so there is a bike and pedestrian connection here, but it would not be, you know, alongside that collector road. So it would be an off-street facility. And then alternative C, we go to 6,000 homes. We have the most housing variety, also the most apartment units. And we have the same commercial area up at 175th and Weir. And now the second commercial area is kind of bumped out to the main arterial road on Tile Flat. You'll see that there are a lot more of these purple, bike ped connections that stand out because there are not as many collector roads on alternative C. We've heard a lot of concerns from community members about impacts from development on natural resources in this area. With the nature park and the creeks that connect to it, we wanted to put an alternative out there for consideration that kind of responded to those environmental concerns. And so we do have creek crossings, but they're not for vehicles. They're just for, for people walking and biking or using mobility devices. And then Route 3 in this instance is also shifted a bit farther to the south to allow for more development on both sides of the street. Last thing I think I wanted to point out was that this alternative also assumes a new community park. That's just larger in size. They tend to have athletic fields, more gathering places. And so it's kind of a, different type of feature and amenity for the community. All right, so we've talked about all the ways that these alternatives are different. I did want to mention that there are some common attributes as well, one of which is the Mckernan Creek Greenway concept. We found as we studied utilities and the natural areas that a lot of these features were kind of overlaid in roughly the same location. And so the creeks provide natural stormwater management. This is an important wildlife corridor moving through the creek system. We also know that to get sewer service up to this area, there's a pump station that will need to go down here. And so the connection would need to also fall roughly along this creek corridor. As we saw, some of the alternatives have collector roads that are kind of on the edge of the creek. And then we are also planning for a trail to connect people, not only to the nature park, but, to people who live in these neighborhoods to travel, really from one end of the project area to the other along this Mckernan Creek Trail. So I think it's an exciting opportunity and something that kind of emerged just through the process. And hopefully it makes more efficient use of this land if we're able to kind of co-locate a lot of these utilities and amenities in roughly the same area. There are a few other common traits between the alternatives. We do need to allow for those middle housing types and all of the alternatives. We're also assuming that there'll be some amount of regulated affordable housing. We set a target of 10% of the total housing units would be regulated affordable. That number actually came from what we're seeing in South Cooper Mountain. So we think it's feasible, particularly if there are, funds available through things such as the Metro Affordable Housing Bond. And then we also have been working closely with Washington County They are planning on some road projects, and so those are integrated into all three of the alternatives. Okay, so I wanted to kind of focus a bit of our conversation on bicycles and what the differences are, as a user. Maybe it's whether you're using it as a kind of recreational rider, or really for transportation. But I wanted to get this group's thoughts on kind of the off-street versus on-street facilities, and how we might think about those in planning for Cooper Mountain. Alternative A, we have a lot of those on-street facilities because there just are going to be more roads. However, as you get to alternative B, and particularly alternative C, we start to rely more heavily on those off-street connections. So I kind of wanted to open it up for a little bit of discussion, and just ask, what do you have a preference? And maybe does that depend on if you're riding for recreation or really riding to commute?
We have 6 minutes open per schedule to have this discussion. So folks, please raise your hand or speak up. Yep, Michael.
Yeah, I think if you're, a lot of it depends on distance for me. If you're just sort of going down the street to see a friend, or going to the grocery store, then I think the sort of trail options are a little more appealing, since you're not kind of in it for the long haul. And alternative C seemed like it would support a lot of that, having the most commercial space, which seemed like a great idea to me. But I think if you're more sort of long haul, wanting to get from point A to point B, then the sort of street, the on-street facilities are a better option. But sort of given what the goals are that you talked about, or the sort of things you want to achieve, I think some of the off-street facilities might be more appealing.
Thank you.
Mike, did I put my hand up before or after you? I took my screen off my eyes off the screen for a second. All right.
You go.
All right. So my take on this is that we do have some streets in the Cooper Mountain area that can be maybe a little more uphill than folks might be comfortable with. So if any of your planned routes would go along those uphill sections, to consider perceived safety of cyclists versus speed of traffic, and that maybe some of your off-street routes could help people feel safer if they can't bike as quickly as they'd prefer. And then, Mike, your hand's up.
Yeah, I think echoing on that, that's one of my biggest interests, is looking at the topography and what the grade is on some of these trails, and how actually accessible they will be to a larger population, that they would use them. And then looking, that's I think one of my big thoughts. And also just as far as building out, you alluded to some of the connector roads, but Tile Flat is a heavily used road by recreational cyclists at this point. So seeing that accommodations for cyclists on those, with an increase in motor vehicle traffic likely to be coming along with this.
Thank you.
We've still got 3 minutes open in the schedule. Any other thoughts, or do you need to proceed with more slides?
I just have kind of the next step slide, but you did touch on, the topography, which really is going to be a challenge in this area. I kind of wanted to open it up to see if anyone had suggestions on, sounds like maybe, separated facilities could help with some of those safety issues when you have hills and people, speeding. Are there any other, I guess, kind of best practices or things we should consider given the slopes in the area?
Are there ways to maybe create some zigzags or things of that nature to be able to reduce the gradient that they're going and just also help with safety potentially?
Okay.
I'm thinking switchbacks.
Okay. Well, I know we want to stay on time here. I wanted to put in a quick plug for our online open house, which will kick off next week on the 17th and will run through April 4th. This is an opportunity to weigh in on the alternatives. We have it kind of broken up into different topics: housing and environment and transportation. We also have an online event on March 31st, which is just a chance to ask questions of the project team, share feedback. We'll have a couple of breakout discussions to, weigh your thoughts on the alternatives along with other community members. So information on those events will be posted to the project webpage, beavertonoregon.gov/cm. And next steps, we're going to continue engagement through early April. That's going to help us come up with that preferred alternative, so likely a hybrid of all three. And then we need to figure out, how do we pay for this infrastructure and who's taking the lead on which projects. So we'll put together a draft funding plan. And then by this fall, we should have a draft plan in the works. So that is it. I wanted to thank you all for your time tonight. And I can also follow up with Jean too with kind of more information and links to our online open house and event on the 31st. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming by and for making sure we know how to get in contact with you and what the further opportunities for public engagement are. So now it's 7:35 and we're moving on to topics that are going to take up the bulk of the rest of our time this evening. We're going to be talking about the City of Beaverton Bike Map and bike tool stations, which I know are topics that we're all really interested and excited about. So Kellie, if you're ready.
Yeah, I think Jean is going to share her screen to share the presentation.
Which one should we do? Which one are we doing first?
Oh, let's see. Let's do bike tool stations first.
Okay, great.
Okay. So while Jean's bringing that up, I'll just introduce myself. It's the first time I'm meeting you all tonight. Thanks for having me. My name is Kellie Fenton, and I am an associate planner with the Transportation Division, and I've been with the city for just a few months. My background is in the planning and design of pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. And I think you've probably seen some presentations on our capital projects, such as the downtown loop. And so I'm on Jean's team and I support Dan on that specific downtown loop project. And also have some various other small but sweet projects. And I'll be presenting two of those to you this evening, the bicycle repair stations and the update to the Beaverton bicycle map. So let's start with the bicycle repair stations. Here's the outline of the presentation. I'll provide a brief project overview, followed by a review of the existing locations of bicycle repair stations in the city currently. The Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District is planning to install a couple of new stations, and I'll show you where those will be located. All of this leads us to the review of location options for new bicycle repair stations. And we'll conclude with a discussion and decision on the location of two new bike repair stations. This project was inspired in part by one of the BAC's own. John brought the idea forward. He identified where the bike repair stations are in the area and made the case that having more of these would be a benefit to the community. The city has funding for two bicycle repair stations. You may have seen these around town. They look similar to the photo here on the right. Each unit consists of a bike stand, tools, and an air pump. We're working with THPRD for the installation of these stations. They will install and maintain them. There are a couple of requirements for the locations. They need to be in the city of Beaverton, and they need to be on THPRD property or in a park. So let's look at the list of existing locations. I think we have 7 currently. One is at the library downtown. The pump is on the kind of east side near the bicycle parking. There are 2 at TriMet, one at the Beaverton Transit Center and one at Sunset Transit Center. THPRD has one at the Aquatic Center and another, which I'm not sure is actually in Beaverton or not, the Rock Creek Trail and Waterhouse Trail near Pirates Park. And then there are a couple of others at private locations. So one is at the Whole Foods on Shoals Ferry Road, and one is at La Scala and Barcelona Apartments, which is Lombard Street downtown. Let's see, so next slide. So THPRD developed a list of locations and a list of potential locations and criteria to evaluate them. And I've included just a snippet of the Excel sheet they provided to us to demonstrate the thinking behind that evaluation. And we'll get into the details of these a little bit later on in the presentation, but the criteria include proximity to park amenities, the presence of bicycle activity, the proximity to bike lanes and transit, and let's see. And then there's another component to it that is equity. So it's an equity analysis where neighborhoods are ranked based on overall household income and percentage of residents who are people of color. So overall, the locations in green have the highest score. And so we'll focus on those to meet the overall community goals. So moving on to the plan locations. So here's some good news. THPRD is partnering with the Boy Scouts to fundraise and install a couple of bike repair tool stations. And those locations are listed here. So one is Fano Creek Trail at Denny Road near the kiosk there. And the other is the Garden Home Recreation Area, which is, this is a photo on the right here, near that kiosk that's kind of between the parking lot and the road. So going back to the list of location options, I have put these stars, these yellow stars next to the 5 locations that are still potential locations for us to consider as a group. The other 2 are the ones that THPRD is doing with the Boy Scouts. So the 5 locations are Mountain View Champions near the kiosk there, Barrows Park near the playground, the West Side Trail at Nature Park, which is near Merlot Station, Shipler Park near the skate park, and then Greenway Park near the playground. And so the following slides, I have one slide for each location, and we'll go through those and you'll see some photos. And I'll go through these in more for each one in more detail. So the first one is Mountain View Champions. So the aerials for context, the kiosk is adjacent to the parking lot area, and it's also adjacent to a bike parking area. This is high in terms of equity and proximity to a park, and is moderate for bike presence and proximity to bike facilities or transit. The next location is Barrows Park. This park is southeast of Barrows Lake, or Progress Lake, and there's a regional trail that goes through the park. The location suggestion is on the right, adjacent to the playground area. So this ranks high in terms of equity and moderate for all the other criteria, which is park amenities, bike presence, and proximity to bike facilities or transit. The next location is West Side Trail at Nature Park. In the photo to the right, this is taken facing southeast. And so you can see the West Side Trail is in the very background. So for this location, it's high in terms of bike presence and proximity to bike facilities and transit. As you can see the transit going through there, but low in terms of, low in terms of proximity to a park. The fourth location on the list is Shipler Park. This is the location suggested is adjacent to a skate park, which you can see here. The fence is around the skate park. So this ranks high in terms of park amenities and proximity to bicycle facilities, and low in terms of bike presence or bike activity. Last location is number 5. So this is Greenway Park. Like Barrows Park, it is also near a playground, and it rates high in terms of park amenities and park presence or bike presence, but low in terms of equity. All right, so now you've seen the location options, those 5. Here again is that list. And so now I'd like to discuss. I'm interested to hear your ideas and opinions and preferences for locations. Yeah, so before we do that, does anyone have questions about the locations or the evaluation criteria? Or do you just want to jump right into figuring out which 2 are the best locations?
I might have missed, but I'm curious the definition of equity, what they were looking at there.
Okay, so in this case, they, let's see. Yeah, the equity analysis was done. So it's an equity analysis where neighborhoods are ranked based on household income and the percentage of residents who are people of color.
Michael, saw your hand.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kelly, for this presentation. It's exciting that these projects are moving forward. One sort of component that I didn't see in this matrix that's sort of coming to mind is sort of proximity to other bike stations. So for me, I'm thinking about, Shipler Park is pretty close to downtown, which already has a lot of different sort of bike stations in it. So when I sort of think about it in those terms, locations like Barrows Park seem more appealing to me in that way, to start sort of building up the infrastructure there. And especially with Greenway, not too far from the Fenton Creek Trail. So I'm sort of thinking along those terms, but obviously I think any of these locations would be a big asset for the area.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for that. Yes, we are planning on mapping these, but that's, we're a few days out on that. But yes, thinking about, the overall map of where those repair stations should be, I think is great.
John, I see your hand.
Yeah, boy, thanks for driving this across the finish line. This idea came up a couple of years ago, and we took some photographs and we rode around, and it's just really great to see it coming to fruition. So thank you for all the work that you did.
Well, thank you. You did a lot of work.
My 2 cents is I like the Denny location. There's a parking lot there. There's a kiosk. It's on the Fenton Creek Trail. It's kind of in the middle of the Fenton Creek Trail. So I think you're going to see a lot of bicycle and pedestrian action back and forth. So I like that location for sure. And I also like a location that's not on your list at all, and that's the Eichler Park, which is the the dirt humps, the jumping BMX type bikes, and it's next to the fire station. It's on Farmington Road. Every time I've been there, there are 2, 3, 4 kids having a ball. And I think it would be, I guess it's not Tualatin Hills Park District, but it is in Beaverton. And I think it's a real logical place to put a bike tool station.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, Eichler Park?
Does anyone else have ideas for, do you think that would be a good one to add to the list?
Well, I do. I'd be interested if
Yeah.
other people think so.
Yeah.
I have actually had a flat tire near there and would have loved to have a repair station. So though that is extremely anecdotal and in the past, I think it would be a great idea.
That's good. Well, it's also good to know, John, that you mentioned that there's, yeah, it makes sense there's activity there. So it could be a really useful location for people.
Nathaniel,
I think-
sorry.
As I would echo that, particularly if you're looking at future stations, if this is something that has to be done in concert with THPRD and be on their property. But I think that would be a great location because it is a lot of use there. I think I like the one down on Barrows. I was just curious, I was looking, trying to find the city map. Is Barrows the boundary between Beaverton and Tigard? And do we go down into that section?
We
Okay.
do. Yes. Yep. Barrows is the boundary.
Okay.
So I wanted to echo Nathaniel's anecdote in that when thinking about locations, we should consider where do we have a high enough volume of cyclists who might have a flat or an incident occur, and how horrible will it be for them to get stuck in that area, maybe not near help that they could use. So thinking about volume of traffic, and to that end, one thing to consider about the West Side Trail at Nature Park, Jean, correct me if I'm misremembering, but isn't there a project to try to open up a connector that's going along the blue line? So it would kind of cut through Nike and over. So even though right now that West Side Trail and Nature Park is kind of isolated from the Beaverton Creek stop where there's definitely a bike repair station, it's possible when that new trail is completed that it would be pretty easy for someone at West Side Trail to just get one max stop down if they needed the repair station that's already there. So just a future planning thought.
Okay, that's good, linking bicycle to transit. Okay. Any other thoughts? And I'm kind of wondering if we should almost kind of take a vote on what you guys think are your kind of top two.
Oh, I see a hand up from Mike.
I was just wondering with the Mountain View, that's out by the high school, whether that at this point in development, if it's still a little too isolated or if there is enough traffic occurring with cycling out there to warrant it. It might be something to be putting in for future development, would be another thought.
Okay, yeah, so it looks like Mountain View, well, the bike presence is moderate, it's just ranked a 3.
Kelly, I did have a question. Was Eichler Park anywhere else on their list of the non-green? I'm just curious.
Well, we have that list, if you want to scroll up to the,
Oh, right. Let me go there. Yeah, bear with me. Was that it? No. Oh,
yep.
There it was.
Mhm.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I recall that was one we discussed when this idea was first being kicked around.
I'm curious about why it might not have appeared, and I'm wondering if it may be because it is so close to the Beaverton Swim Center, where we have one now that was installed by the Beaverton Downtown Association. I just wonder if that might have been in their thinking for some reason. We can find out.
Okay.
I feel like I was hearing support for Eichler. So.
Okay. And Barrows, it sounds like.
And John also was asking about the Denny Road location.
Yeah,
I
that's
think those are
board
the
number
ones that I
one.
heard about. And the West Side Trail. So,
Okay, but the Denny Road one, the one that's near Fennel Creek that the THPRD is doing with the Boy Scouts, or a different Denny Road location?
Oh, so the Boy Scouts are already doing that? We don't need to put one there?
Right, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're doing it as part of an Eagle Scout kind of project that they've done with previous Eagle Scouts in the past, where they do some fundraising for the Eagle Scout project, and then they actually do the installation of the station.
Yeah. Great.
So yeah, they've already reserved that. They've already tagged that one for that activity.
okay, John's all set. Okay, so how do you want to do this, Madam Chairwoman?
Well, we could always say a location and have people raise their hand or use the raised hand icon. And that way you could look in the participants area and get a quick glance at everyone who has raised hands. We do have 5 different places to vote on and not a whole lot of us. So I'm worried we're going to end up with a multiple way tie. Maybe people could vote for their favorite too, and that might spread it out a little.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Okay,
right.
we have 5 here, but we're going to add one more,
Yep.
which is the Eichler Park. Okay.
And everyone, you've got 2 votes. So when they say the name of a location that you would like to vote for, you can either raise your hand or go ahead and use the little raised hand button so we can see you show up in multiple places. Again, your favorite 2 spots, vote for.
Great. Okay. I will call out the names. Okay, here we go, team. Mountain View Champions. Do we see any hands? We have one from Michael Hashizume. Check. Okay, Michael, you're down for your 1. You only get 1 more vote. Okay, how about Barrows Park? Michael Hashizume and John and Mulligan and Amanda. Okay, great. Okay, West Side Trail at Nature Park. We got a John Vogler. Oh no, wait. Okay, wait. That was a okay. Check. Okay, we have Michael Dunlevy. Great. Okay, and how about Shipler? We have a Mike Mulligan. Okay, I've lost track of how many votes you all have had.
Sorry.
So it's all honor system.
Sorry, rescind that.
Oh, rescind. Okay.
I was thinking Eichler.
Oh, okay.
Are we
Greenway Park.
adding
Well,
Eichler
yeah,
ad hoc?
Eichler's the last one.
Okay.
Okay, Greenway Park. We have a Michael Dunlevy and we have a Chuan. Okay. And last but not least, Eichler Park, drum roll please. Okay, we have Amanda and Mike and John. Okay, and there would be a vote from Nathaniel if he were voting. Great. Okay, so that tells me that I have Barrows and Kellie, you can tell me, I think you were taking votes too. We have Barrows and
No, I lost
Eichler.
track.
Oh, okay, well, good that I was taking notes. Barrows came in first, Eichler came in second, and Greenway came in third. And I think I want to just document Greenway as the third. You can tell me Eichler voters, if for some reason, there's a reason why THPRD does not want to put it at Eichler, right? I think we need a backup. So maybe for those of you that voted for Eichler, what would be your third choice? Anybody want it?
Greenway for me.
Greenway for you. Okay. I forgot who
Greenway.
voted for Eichler. Greenway.
Sure, Greenway.
All right.
Greenway.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So Barrows, Eichler, Greenway.
Gotcha.
Ta-da!
Okay. I'll touch base with THPRD and see what they have to say.
Great. Okay. Fabulous.
Great.
Okay. How are we doing on time?
Well,
How much
it's
time do we have left?
7:57.
Great. We got time.
Let's
Yep,
see, how much time do we have?
Till 8:20.
8:20. Okay, so I have a whole other presentation that we'd like to shift over to. So regarding the
Here we go.
bicycle map. So
Here we go.
there are some decisions to make. So I'm gonna try to run through it quickly.
Okay. Are you all seeing bicycle map update? Fabulous.
Okay. So let's just jump into it. Let's see, here's the outline. I'll give you an introduction to the project, tell you a bit about the process and the timeline, and then the rest of the presentation is broken down into 3 parts: updates, input that we want from you, and a decision that we'd like from you. So one is to give you some updates. Actually, let's just jump to the next slide. Yeah. The last update to the map was 2014. We're running low on hard copies and we have funds to print more. So before doing that, we want to update not just the bike facilities on the maps themselves, but the other portions of the map as well. If you happen to have a copy of your Beaverton bicycle map close by, now would be an awesome time to get it. Okay, let's see. So jumping to the first update. This is update to Symbology. This is a pretty substantial one. So Symbology is how we represent the different types of bicycle facilities on the map. At the right is a legend from the 2014 map. And you can look at it, on your own map as well. You see it has just a general category for bike lane, and then it has different categories for various traffic levels. So low, moderate, and high. And then this kind of scary category called caution area. So more and more cities are building bicycle infrastructure, and there is a wider variety of bicycle facility types, even in Beaverton. And so we'll be updating the Symbology. I'm going to show you that on the next slide, what we're planning to do. So the left again is Beaverton's 2014 Symbology. On the right is from PBOTS, which Portland Bureau of Transportation, which they just updated last year. So I'm doing a little sort of matching game here. So for the multi-use path, we are retaining that. And we are just going to be updating it to be more descriptive for people to help them out to understand it's paved, no motor vehicles. And then the big news also is that we are translating all this into Spanish. So for bike lane, Beaverton has more nuanced bike lanes than just the general bike lane. So we'll update the Symbology to include an additional separate category for buffered or protected bike lanes. For the low traffic route, we're looking at updating this to be called neighborhood bikeways. These are streets that have the Sharrow pavement marking, and the description that will accompany it will specify that. And then we have these categories, moderate, high, and caution areas. We're revisiting this, and we're based on traffic counts and speed limits, and we'll refine those categories as we take a look at those to be more descriptive. The next update is to the bicycle safety tips. So these are the 2014 bicycle tips that are, if you need to look at them more closely, they're of course in the map. The major change here is that we are going to add Spanish translation. So we are retaining all of the bicycle tips and just doing new graphics and some new text. The updated graphics have a fresh look and are more diagrammatic and more instructive and easier to read. So for example, using hand signals is much more diagrammatic than previously. The other one that's great to show the diagrammatic quality is choose the best way to turn left on the next slide. It shows, it's much more instructive about how to go about doing that to make sure that people feel confident and safe when they're on a bicycle. The table on the next slide lists the tips to compare 2014 to 2022. So getting into a little bit of the details, we're updating things like gear up for urban conditions. We're changing that text because that text is kind of jargony, and we want to make it more easy to read and understood for people who speak English as a second language. So we're switching that to something that's less jargony, dress appropriately, and ride a well-equipped bicycle. And then we are adding one called End Bike Theft and give some guidance on that. Okay, so here is a summary of items we are updating. let's see. Okay, we're moving. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I added that later on, Jean. So
How about we just pause here?
Yes. So we are updating Symbology, updating the bicycle safety tips, adding the translation. We're also going to be adding the locations for the bicycle repair stations. And so the next portion of the presentation is we want you to look at some items for your input as well as a decision, but I wanted to pause and make sure that I answer any questions that you have about these updates. Okay, if there's no questions, then I'm happy to hop to the input section of this presentation. So the back panel of the 2014 map has a lot of information that's not really utilized. So we're going to condense this information and remove some of the resources and some of the logos. This means that we'll have some space for additional information. So we'd like to hear from you on what you think would be good to put in this additional space. Some ideas would be a promotion of the BAC or a list of specific activities that are going on, potentially some encouraging words for the novice cyclists or to get families out on their bicycles together, and any other ideas. So what do you think you'd like to see there in that additional space that we have?
Hi, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, please,
Go ahead,
Sean.
Sean.
Okay. And recently, Oregon passed a law as the stop as yield law, basically saying that the stop sign for bicycles you can treat it as a yield sign instead. So we probably want to make it more clear for people that to understand what does that mean.
Okay, yeah, in the bicycle safety tips. So to include some more instruction about yielding and stop signs. Or do you think that should go on the back panel itself?
Yeah, it's the safety. I think at the safety session, yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Next hand I saw was Mike.
I'm wondering if, I'm trying to remember what they're called. There's those little codes that you can scan with your phone, then takes you to a site, whether there would be something like that that would go to a page on the Beaverton city site that might have, or if you want to be able to share more information, more context, more of that education piece, something like that, or even take them to an electronic version of the map.
Good, I like that. That makes sense. Cool.
What are those?
What other
things
ideas?
called?
QR codes.
Ah.
And I see John's hand is up.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe use some of this space to promote the bicycle shops. You know, Performance Bike made a major investment relocating to Beaverton. There's the old bike gallery, maybe a couple of others. You know, where those locations are and what their numbers are, that might be handy to have on the map.
Okay.
I'm looking at my current copy of the bike map right now, and although I see we have park areas in green, I'm wondering if we need to add any symbology for actual playground areas, or where dirt bikes might want to go, places that could be destinations, recreational destinations for cyclists.
Okay. Like other than just the parks being on there, like what are you thinking of in terms of recreational destinations?
Like if a family wanted to go to, if there's a THPRD playground facility, for example, or if someone wanted to go out to like Eichler Park to go on the bumps, things like that.
Okay.
Okay, like play structures.
Right. John,
Is there any place, sorry, is there any place else like Eichler Park with the bumps? You can let us know if you think of something. Okay.
John, I think I saw your hand next.
Bathrooms.
Ah,
Maybe it's on there, but it sure would be nice to know where they all are.
Yes, wouldn't it? Yes.
Mike.
And I don't know if we have the information, but being able to mark where there are bike racks. So like in shopping areas, if there's a way to give a symbol of where there's bike racks, they'd know. That may be too granular, but.
That makes sense. It's an asset that the city has that would be good to have on a map.
And the repair stations.
Exactly. Yes, we are going to add their bicycle repair stations. Okay. Any other particular comments about like the back specifically, that back panel? It's going to be something that people are going to, they're going to get these maps as a handout at, Bike Beaverton, and then they're going to, come home and they're going to toss it on their coffee table or something. So that back panel is something that's going to be showing. So it could be advertising something. It could be, instead of just like plain resources, it could, it could really somehow. I was thinking it would be great if it kind of got people excited about getting on a bicycle somehow. But all right.
Sorry, I keep clicking. Sorry.
Are you prompting me to move on?
No, but
we only have 10 more minutes, so it might be.
Okay.
You should move on.
And I hope, Kelly, I have the right version.
Yeah, I think you probably do.
That was the only slide. Okay.
Yeah, I was just refining it, tweaking it along the way. Yeah.
Okay. Mike, your hand, is that a stray hand, Mike? And then John, did you have a comment?
Sorry.
John, did you have a final comment?
I did. I love maps, so I'm really in my groove here. I'd love to make sure that you have the website address for downloading a high density PDF of the whole map.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you for that input. Okay, so now I'd like to move to the next section, which is for your input. So it's cover design. So what you see here, the city graphic designer created these two layouts for the front cover. They're colorful and fun, and they feature bicycle imagery, the bike gears on the left and then the bike chain on the right. And there are different photo options, which we'll look at later in the presentation. But the selection of a photo is really a challenge. It needs to be approved by the city and must follow specific requirements. For example, to ensure privacy, we can't focus on any individual child. In some photos, there are some less than ideal bicycle practices, such as helmets askew or really low seats. And so taking this into consideration, our graphic designer has developed an illustration that we could use instead of a photo. So let's take a look at that. I want to mention that this still needs to be approved by the city. So it is a potential option because they typically go with photos, but they're looking at potentially shifting in this direction. So it's even more colorful than the other layouts and is really eye-catching and easy to read. And so now on the next slide, we can look at all three of the layouts side by side. And I want to hear what you think of these. So which one do you like and why, and which one stands out to you?
All right, John, I saw your hand first.
Okay, I'm okay with 1 and 2, but not the third one. Yeah, the third one is basically will have a very big logo that's just cover one one guy down there seems like that guy is not important. I don't think that's a good design. The
Oh,
third one,
gotcha.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
My hand was next. So my one point for a good cover is that I would like to see the word Beaverton in a relatively larger or easier to read font, just so if someone has a stack of bike maps for the area, they can quickly see Beaverton and know that's the one they need for us.
Gotcha.
And then after me was Michael.
I really like the third option we have on here, the one to the right. I really like the idea of, I know you touched on some of the challenges of using photos of actual people, but it is nice to see people from the community represented on here. And I think when I see blue and green, I think Beaverton right away. I know that's the website's kind of color scheme and everything. And I think a lot of, I mean, the old map is as well. So I think it just, for some reason, I looked at that and immediately I was like, oh yeah, Beaverton.
Mm-hmm.
Nathaniel?
Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, what am I doing? I think everything everybody else said was perfect and good. I agree completely with Michael that blue and green is Beaverton's colors to me. I agree with Amanda that the word Beaverton should be big. And I think that the illustrated design is timeless. Immediately, the two photo designs are dated and will become even more dated every year that this doesn't get updated. And if it's 8 more years before we update it again, it will be woefully out of date. Whereas the illustration is timeless, and changing the hills in the background instead of being yellow and blue to green and blue immediately makes it read both more Oregon and more Beaverton and less kind of like, oh, is that San Diego's bike map? I love the illustrated version.
Next in the queue is John.
I like the illustrated version too. It's got motion to me. And this is a fine point, but the cranks are all messed up on that illustration. You've got, you need to fix the cranks so that they're 180 degrees apart, not way there.
Right.
Right, Mike Mulligan, your hand was up next.
Yes, I would agree as far as the cranks are concerned. And I think I am sort of leaning towards that one. I'm a bit biased because this is my photo, but I think if you were going to go with the photo, trying to make it something that does have better illustration, a proper helmet, and maybe combining it is take the upper portion of the first one with the cog set and that in place of the big chain, and keep it in the blue and the green colors.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to do a photo. But I would agree with Nathaniel, as it is kind of more timeless with having more of an illustration to it.
Okay.
Michael Dunleavy, you're up next.
I would like to reiterate the admiration for the illustrated photo. I'm a big fan of like national park style art, and while this isn't exactly the same, it gives me the same kind of vibe. I can't believe I'm almost 40 and I use that word after the way that it's used these days, but yes, I really enjoy the artwork, and the colors could be tweaked, but that would absolutely get my vote.
Okay.
That's everyone who was in the questions queue. I think we just have hands that were left up and not taken down, not necessarily new questions. We do have 3 more minutes on agenda, although city updates are always sent out via email. So at Jean's discretion, we can also go into her 5 minutes.
We can squeeze me. So
right.
Kelly, do you have enough input on this? Do we have to go to the next slide?
Yeah,
You
I
need
think
input
we're
on another?
probably ready for the next slide. So, so the next slide is input on the cover photo. So if we, and it sounds like people are leaning more towards the illustration, but if we do end up going with one of the layouts that has the photo, here are 3 options that our graphics designer has already screened for us that would be appropriate, that could be used for the cover. So wondering what your thoughts are or what your vote is in terms of which of these. I guess it's really a vote on one of the 4 that you've seen. And sorry, I put in your brain the bad bicycle practices of the skewed helmet and low bike seats, but I guess that's something that's a consideration. So what do you think in terms of photos? Is there one you prefer?
I really like in the one on the left, it's a whole family. They're all on their bike. I don't see any glaringly bad bike behavior being demonstrated. So it's nice. I also really like the composition of 2. Again, it's nice that there's this sort of emphasis on families.
I agree. I think the first one, the most left-hand side guy, looks the best, and the third one looks like there's one guy is cutting short of a car, which I don't quite like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with the photos that we get at the Bike Beaverton events is, they are what they are. And so just like, oh, can we crop that? But yeah, sometimes it's not the best backgrounds or, yeah. Okay. Good to see what you're noticing. Any other thoughts about any of these photos? All right. Well, thank you for all your feedback and thanks for listening to the presentations. Appreciate everything that you've, all the feedback that you've gotten. I've taken some notes and I have some follow-up items. So I'm looking forward to these projects moving forward and we'll keep you updated.
Yeah, that was a really great presentation. Lots of fun stuff for us to talk and think about. So thank you very much for coming by, and for you and Jean giving us so much of your time and attention on these matters. So Jean,
Sure.
we do have 4 minutes for city updates.
Perfect. Okay, let me find those. So yeah, I had shared with all of you the March updates for boards, commissions, and NACs. If you, I'm not sure how you would have missed the news about the RESER opening, but the RESER has opened and it's just terribly exciting for Beaverton that we have our new Performing Arts Center in downtown. There is the free community celebration with performances and activities this Sunday, March 13th. So if you go to the city's website, you can find out all the information there. And if you go to, actually go to the city's website, or you can go to thereser.org for a full listing of all the upcoming events. They do have safety protocols for COVID and more information about the RESER. Also to know is that the city is now offering expanded in-person services across all city facilities, while we're still continuing virtual services for community members. If you go to the city's website, beavertonoregon.gov, you can find out more information there. We're just, as changes are happening with sort of the latest wave of the pandemic, as that's subsiding, we're also finding just new ways to continue to help our community members access city programs and resources. So there's that to know. City council meeting schedule changed beginning March 1st. And so city council is now having their regular meetings on the first and third Tuesday of each month. and the fourth Tuesday is held for the Beaverton Urban Renewal Agency meetings. And City Council is no longer going to meet on the second or fourth Tuesday of the month unless there's a special council meeting that's required. The other thing to note is that that first meeting of each month will be in person in council chambers. Remote participation still available for visitor comments from the public, as well as just to watch and observe. So just those are all things to note. There is an exception to this schedule. The City Council will meet on May 10th in observance of Eid, and also due to the primary election that's also happening in May. And there's also budget hearings coming up in May. So there's just the May schedules, just to know it's a little bit different. And then one other thing to note is that the state of the city is March 29th. So tune in on Tuesday, March 29th at 12 p.m. for Beaverton Voices State of the City 2022 with Mayor Beatty. The event will premiere on the city's website and also on social media. So tune in for that. And then just things that I shared with all of you that I just wanted to highlight. The Beaverton Downtown Loop survey is still open, and we encourage people to share their thoughts on the changes that we're proposing for Hall and Watson in downtown. So if you go to the city's website, beavertonoregon.gov/the-loop, you'll find the survey there. It's also available in Spanish and Korean. I also shared with all of you via email that our Milliken Way Extension project, we're recruiting for members for our Community Advisory Committee. This is a project that's also downtown. We're planning a new roadway connection along Milliken between Southwest Watson and Southwest Lombard. And it will really help improve that street for people walking and biking. So we definitely would love to have a representative from the BAC. So if you're interested, please feel free to connect with me. Dan Turk, who you've met here before, he's the project manager for that as well. Again, more information on the city's website. And then you all, please do look at the email I sent you with the link to the announcement about the winners for the Safe Routes to Schools art contest. There's a great little video that's kind of fun to watch with all of the winning entries on your screen. So thank you all. I know that they really appreciate your participation as judges. I think it's a great fun activity that we've done now for a couple of years. So those are my updates. Anything else? Any questions you might have for me? Okay, great.
All right, we have time for member comments. And if that goes quickly, we can loop back to the public comment / question we got about bike parking at the Reser. So any member comments? All right, and barring that, I don't know if you know, Jean, the question was, will there be more than 6 staple bike racks installed at the Research Center for the Arts? And the comment was that there seems to be comparatively little bike parking compared to how many car storage spaces there are.
Yeah, great. So I do not know an answer to that. Thank you, Sean, for raising that question. But I will reach out to my colleagues in community development who were the project team for the Reser and the garage, and share that. I'm going to say it's sort of it's a question, but it's also feedback really about how much bike parking there is there at the Reser. So I definitely will find out more about that and find out if there's a possibility for more and share that feedback along, and then loop back with all of you. So Sean, I will put my email address in the chat so you can connect with me offline after the meeting, and then I can share back with you as well. So feel free to reach out if you have other questions too. Any other comments from all of you or thoughts?
I'd like to sort of just echo Sean's comment, especially as we're moving forward on the Loop project and sort of trying to make that whole area more bicycle friendly. I think having a sort of better landing spot for those bikes is definitely a good opportunity for the Reeser.
Okay, thanks.
We still got 2 minutes. If anyone else has anything they'd like to say.
I just wanted to say, Amanda, great job on timekeeping. I think this is a really tough job and awesome. Good job.
Well, I can be kind of a jerk about it too sometimes, so watch out, team. All right, I'm not hearing anything. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Folks, as always, you can always circle back, send myself and Jean an email, and we can get comments where they need to go. So we are going to adjourn 1 minute early this evening at 8:29. Thanks again to all of our speakers who are still online. And thanks, Sean, for being an attendee and giving us your feedback.